Why do you want to run?
I've been active for a long time in the city of Grand Rapids, and normally when a city race comes up, almost 90% of the issues everybody agrees on. This year is different. This is a different cycle. Three issues really stand out for me. My opponents seem to agree on about 95% of the issues. For me, number one, the Grand Rapids Public Schools. That is a citywide issue. I ran on that and I'm running on this. 3 out of 4 of our third graders are illiterate. That's a problem. And if we don't address these problems, which are citywide, the schools, in order to be a strong economic city, we must be a well-educated city. That goes hand in hand. Secondly, I'm a big supporter of law enforcement, the Grand Rapids Police. We need more law enforcement on the streets, and I stand with the rank and file who are greatly under attack right now in our city. I do not believe, according to these studies, that these police officers are racist. There's really no proof of that. The demographics show that in a majority where African Americans live, most of them are getting pulled over. Well, where I live, in Easttown, majority of the people getting pulled over are not African American. So I think they're under attack, and they need a commissioner on that board. They don't have a voice right now. It just seems like it's 6 commissioners and the mayor attacking them. And thirdly, the issue that I've harped on, probably going on for 10 years now, but it never gets a lot of traction because it's not what they call sexy in politics, and that is city debt. I mean, our unfunded liabilities are over $1 billion, and oftentimes, like in Detroit, they weren't concerned about it. People don't understand that. But come a fiscal cliff or a fiscal crisis or any type of sluggish economy, we see what happens, and we need to address those problems because they're serious problems, not now and maybe not 5 years from now, but it definitely can 10 years from now.
You mentioned the schools. There's a separately elected school board. They're a separate entity from the city. There's a school district. What can City Hall do to improve city schools?
We are residents of Grand Rapids. Therefore, we are residents of the Grand Rapids Public School District. The fact that this is a City Hall issue, 300 Monroe Avenue, rather than, I don't know the address, but it's on Franklin Street. We are residents, and when 3 out of 4 of our third graders cannot read, when a great number, over 50% of our kids are not graduating, we can argue the numbers back and forth, but it's become very clear many of the people who do graduate are not ready for college. And also, if you look at some of our star schools that we like to point out to, many of those who graduate from the very intelligent schools, as they say, don't graduate from college. We have an education problem here in Grand Rapids, and we must address it. It's controlled by an establishment wing of political parties, and we must change. We must change the direction of the Grand Rapids Public Schools and make sure that the kids who go there are educated. People talk about school of choice. I'm all for choice. I'm a liberties person. But that doesn't solve the problems of those schools that are failing or close to failing.
So what does City Hall do then to...
Number one, we become advocates and we spread the word. And for me, I'm an activist. Whether I'm elected or not, I always say to myself, I'm either a board member or a commissioner, and an activist or an activist. But I think Commissioner Farage has a stronger title towards people will listen a lot more to a lot of the rhetoric over the years I've been talking about. Also, we need to start mentoring with term limits. We need to start mentoring homegrown talent to replace myself and many others on the board. Now we have political parties that 4 or 5 years in advance, they look at someone, they say person A is going to run, and that's the way it's going to be. We need people to challenge those candidates as alternative candidates. Citizens who are going to be here 10, 20 years from now. Not necessarily looking at where is my next step, but basically being on the board as a neighbor, as a friend, to help get things accomplished right in your own community.
So you've talked about a lot of things you're interested in as a city commissioner. Is there one or two larger picture overriding issues, bigger challenges that in your mind the city needs to address right off the bat, you would address after taking the oath of office if you win?
We need more police officers. In 2010, I believe you and I did an interview where it was a public safety election. It was passed. We have less police officers now than after it passed. That makes no sense. The city is a safe city, but it's only a safe city, and it's only a thriving city when we have the right law enforcement in place to make it a city to where people can go out and people don't have to worry about crime, or people don't have to worry about several of the other things they do in the major cities.
The police department will argue that crime has actually gone down in the city.
Well, and I believe it has gone down, but that doesn't necessarily mean we don't need more police officers. If you look at the sections that the police officers have on their map, several of them they're basically short-staffed. And oftentimes we saw when there's problems in the problem areas, an awful lot of those police officers have to leave their segrant, whatever they call them, over and shift them over to the areas where there is an interest, where there's a problem. I believe it was last year or the year before, we needed police officers not only from the county but from other cities to come and help when we thought there may be a problem. I think it was a bonfire. We need to hire more police. First and foremost, that is an issue of grave importance. And it's close to my heart. I stand with the rank and file.
This is the part we call open mic. Open mic, Mike. You get to look at the camera and tell people why they should vote for you. If we missed any questions that you want to address, you've got the camera.
Okay. Should I look at you or look at the camera? Oftentimes, people probably know me or know of me as the guy who's jumping up and down, yelling and screaming in regards to taxes. I'm very concerned about our city and our taxes. Every 3 to 4 months, we're facing another referendum. This was an issue I brought to the attention of 10, 15 years ago. And we talk about homelessness, we talk about affordable housing in Grand Rapids. Here's the problem. When we continue to push more and more of these millages, more and more of these property tax and renter tax onlys, this is where we force people out of their houses. And we need to address this problem. Number one is we need a larger group fighting these millages. And number two, we need bodies of elected officials not to just rubber stamp these groups that want to get on the millage. We've had the zoo, we've had the museum, we've had just endless amounts, the Kent ISD, we've had endless amounts of groups, and we have 2 more renewals coming in November. We really need to address these problems because they correlate. If we're constantly, $200 a year, we're raising property tax, that's also a renter tax. We need to address these problems. They need to be addressed now, or else we're really going to start pricing people out of the market.